everybody, and welcome to the Total Soccer Show. My name is Taylor Rockwell. Daryl Grove is not with me in studio today, so instead I'm going to be speaking to the Athletics' Felipe Cardenas. We're going to be discussing the Gold Cup and Copa America, as we have done previously, but we go deep on what Mexico have done so far, how they managed to make it to the final, how they managed to get past a very talented Haiti team, and what we should expect from Haiti going forward. And then we look at Copa America. Brazil eliminated Argentina last night, so discussions on maybe what happened there, how Brazil were able to get that done, and maybe where Argentina are as a national team right now. It's not as bad as you would expect, but it's probably also not as good as it should be. And then we look ahead to some possible combinations in the final, what Felipe expects there. So lots and lots of different topics discussed. We somehow get into Bolivia and why they aren't as good as many other Copa America sides. It's a lot going on. Felipe has many answers to many things, and he was game to answer most of my slightly rambling questions. So with that in mind, I will just turn it over to me, asking slightly rambling questions, and Felipe answering them perfectly. With me now, once again, I've got the Athletics' Felipe Cardenas. I've been struggling to pronounce it, I think, this entire competition. Hopefully a little bit better that time. Felipe, thank you, as always, for taking the time to talk to me today.
My pleasure. You nailed it.
There we go. All right.
Got it.
Off to a good start. We'll see if I keep it going. Because I want to talk El Tri up front. You've been covering Mexico for The Athletic, and then you've basically been covering Copa America, I guess, for yourself and for the Total Soccer Show?
Of course. Yeah, that's how we do it. Yeah.
I appreciate
that. A little
that.
side gig.
So Mexico needed penalties to get past Costa Rica. Then they left it very late against Haiti with a somewhat controversial penalty call in there as well. Is this Mexico struggling, or is this Mexico maybe coming up against stiffer opposition than maybe the United States has so far?
A little of both. I think there's like the knockout phase portion of a competition where even the best teams in the world can struggle when they know that the margin for error is nil. There's really no whether the underdog is overmatched. Like either team can advance. So I think the nerves are heightened a bit. But Mexico is definitely struggling to finish in front of goal. They just have not been clinical at all, really, and ever since the Cuba match where they put 7 past Cuba. And that's been a talking point, to your point, throughout the group stage. In post-game press conferences, that has been a question that Tata Martino has had to field. It's been a question that the players have answered in the mix zone, like why hasn't this team been as convincing in front of goal? And the answers vary. I think Tata will say that he'll agree. He'll say we have not been clinical. He said after Martinique that had we been clinical in front of goal, we would be having a totally different conversation. We wouldn't be talking about the team struggling to put a team away, etc. And the players in the mix zone, when they've been asked that question, I think they've been honest. Some of them have given kind of obvious answers, but Rodolfo Pizarro, for instance, said that he thinks sometimes they've been a little bit overconfident in front of goal. But it's a matter of time. Like the chances are being created, and I would agree with him. I think even yet last night, even though Haiti tactically was very good, very disciplined, and obviously well drilled in how to face and match up against Mexico. Mexico owned and dominated the game. They took control of the ball. Like individually, players on the ball, I felt looked very sharp, very technically clean. But it's when they get to that final third, I feel like that's where the attack begins to fall apart. And it's kind of like elementary things where instead of sending a cross in high when guys are crashing near post and some of your midfielders aren't even over 5'8", 5'9", send those balls, send what they call the Latin cross, which is kind of like that death cross from kind of like the on the ground across the front of the goal, like a tap in, a deflection, those types of things. They just weren't doing. Like they'll get the great buildup, they'll isolate their wingers, their wing backs, or last night when Atuna came on, he was very effective, but it's that final ball. So that's definitely something that they'll take into consideration. I know yesterday in the post-game press conference, Tata obviously did not speak to the media because he was suspended, so he was not allowed to. But his chief assistant, Jorge Tyler, who has been with him, from their days in Newell's, they were teammates as players, and obviously he was here with him in Atlanta, answered the question again because it came up and said he agreed. Yes, we have not been clinical, but it's just a matter of time before those chances start to go in.
Clarification there. Is it really called the death ball? Because I really want it to be called that.
Well, I mean, I know that I've heard of the Latin cross.
Mm-hmm.
In Spanish, sometimes they call it, like I translated it literally, the death cross. It's like la pase de la muerte, because it's like you're done. Like as soon as the defense is done, that ball goes through, and you know what happens? Like the goalkeeper freezes. They get stuck to their line.
Yeah.
Defenders kind of just like stand like statues. So it's like. Yeah, in South America, I would translate it to the death cross.
I'm using that forever. I love that. So you talked a little bit about the attack for Mexico. After their 3-2 win over Martinique, Martino spoke about defensive distractions. Since then, they've conceded, one goal, 2 knockout round games, both of which went to extra time. What do you think explains the change there to Mexico's defense?
They've sharpened up for sure, especially on dead balls. I think that was where Martinique took advantage too. They created chances in front of goal, earned fouls in dangerous situations. Scored on an amazing free kick golazo against Mexico, and then scored on kind of like a deflection off a corner where guys were just not in position and didn't get to that second ball. So they look a lot more aware of those situations, and even defensively, I think even the Mexican press and the guys that are following the team, the men and women that follow the team, will say that is a work in progress. I think Tata Martino is still trying to figure out who his best center back pairing is. Is it Hector Moreno and Nestor Araujo? Which I think moving forward, that'll probably be it. Or does he continue to give Carlos Salcedo, who, had a great World Cup in 2014, his form has been kind of inconsistent this season, and he didn't start in the Gold Cup. He wasn't the go-to center back for Mexico, but he is now in the late stage of the tournament. And so the distractions, I think, have been limited. I think they've shored that up. They look very good. I wouldn't say very good, but they look definitely more disciplined on set pieces. I think where they look vulnerable, and it was clear to see, and again, this is a staple of Tata Martino's system, is that they will be caught 1v1. Those center backs, they'll be caught 1v1 with on a counterattack, alone with a forward, and they're going to have to get back. And I think that was seen constantly last night. It got to the point where the center backs weren't building play in Haiti's half of the field anymore. I think let's just say it, out of fear getting caught. And so, and that'll continue to happen. I think what a Mexican national team fan can feel good about is that the team is selling out to get back on defense, because they know they're going to get forward. I think the wing backs are going to be in the opposing half of the field. They're going to be in the box, and if there's a turnover, the guys literally have to sell out and sprint back, and that's what I've been seeing. They were lucky though. Haiti had some very dangerous counterattacks that they just could not finish. It was the final ball from them also was really lacking last night. But that's something that I'm sure future opponents will look to as something that they can expose.
Then there was some debate as well from last night's game about the penalty on Raul Jimenez. Brazil, kicks the foot in the second minute of extra time. Would you say that was a penalty when you were watching it? What did you think?
I didn't think it was a penalty.
Really?
I was like, what just happened? Yeah, I wasn't sure. I thought it was a handball when it happened in the moment, because the ball kind of bounced up. Jimenez was really tight to the defender. The guy was on his back, but I didn't see contact. So even after the replays, I think it's a really soft penalty, really soft by the rules of the game. Yeah, contact in the box. It was a high foot, and you can make that call, but. Harsh, very harsh on Haiti for sure.
Earlier, I think Tata Martino talked about how this tournament needs VAR, how it should have had it, how Copa America has it, so Gold Cup should as well. Do you think this is a case where maybe he's happy that VAR wasn't there for the Gold Cup?
For sure, for sure. It's kind of like how happy I was with all the VAR calls in Chile, Colombia.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. My poor
Yeah,
friend.
but I
My
mean,
poor
but
friend.
listen. Oh, I know. But I'm one of those guys who like I'll talk trash about VAR because of the what it does to the essence of the game and the fact that the celebrations are delayed and things like that. But when it corrects, when it makes the right call and it's kind of correcting or course correcting, you know, offside or handball or something like that, like you can see why VAR is important to the game. Last night, I can guarantee that penalty would have gone to VAR, and you know what? Perhaps it still would have been a penalty. But that's where the human factor enters in, and the referee's looking at the monitor. He's listening to the VAR technicians, and they're telling him what they think, and then he has to make a determination. So last night it was, and even the penalty that Mexico conceded against Costa Rica, which I don't think was a penalty. I think Chaco Rodriguez really did poke that ball away from Joel Campbell. And so did the universe, going back to Lost, did the universe course correct for Mexico last night? Because they were, you could argue, harshly undone by that PK against Costa Rica. And then yesterday, perhaps justice was served.
All right. I like justice being served. But I do want to also give a moment to credit Haiti because I have not watched as much of them in this competition. I watched, obviously, Mexico-Haiti last night. But like we've seen Curacao go kind of at the United States and cause problems. They seem like a team that's going to be problematic for CONCACAF teams going forward. Jamaica seem resurgent as well. They seem like they've reloaded and should be back like near the top of CONCACAF. Where would you put Haiti on that list from what you saw, from what you've seen of them this competition? Do you think this was like just a very strong tournament, or do you think we'll continue to see Haiti strengthening and getting better in future tournaments?
Well, I think it's a wait and see for Haiti, but I certainly think that they've earned the respect of the region. And so when we get to, World Cup qualifying, no one is going to look over Haiti. There's going to be a concern on like tactically how they play. Teams are going to know that they will, that they press high, that they can press high for 120 minutes if they have to. That they are fearless in the attack. I think that was one of the things that was so refreshing to see, is that they'll shoot from anywhere, and that as a defender can really make you backpedal or question or really think that, like, no matter what we do, no matter how good our plan is, and quickly, Tata Martino has spoken about like his plan A and how important it is that, like, don't ask me about a plan B or a plan C as far as tactics go. We're trying to perfect our plan A. But last night I felt that, Haiti's plan A worked extremely well. From literally from minute 1 to minute 120, they were in that game, and they never broke free of the plan of pressing high, staying compact in the midfield, knowing when to press and counter press, and just selling out defensively. And obviously you need a goalkeeper to have one of those types of performances like he had last night. So I don't think this puts Haiti automatically into like a top 5 of CONCACAF, though. I think there are still teams that are stronger, that historically can compete at a high level, with the United States, with Mexico, with Costa Rica. And, look at Jamaica. Jamaica is always going to be one of those difficult teams to play in CONCACAF. But maybe Haiti becomes that team like a Trinidad and Tobago, a team that is difficult to play with no matter where you are. Like, you're not sure what you're going to get when you need to travel to Haiti. It's going to be a difficult match. The conditions will be against you. And now they have players that obviously have earned a lot of confidence in this tournament. They're experienced players. And who knows if this tournament will open doors for those players to get more opportunities in stronger leagues, including MLS, where then that in turn, like MLS has done for other CONCACAF nations, strengthened their national teams. And so maybe Haiti is next along the line of becoming one of those teams that can get players in more competitive leagues and then continuing to develop their national team.
All right, so warning shots from Haiti, a country to keep an eye on for qualifying and everything like that. But Mexico roll on; they'll be in the final. this seems like an obvious question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Like, who are the players that U.S. or Jamaican fans should be most concerned about, or kind of what are the tactical approaches that we might see from Mexico that should be most worrying to the U.S. or Jamaica, whoever gets through?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you go back to the Costa Rica match, and I wrote about this after the match, that Costa Rica did very well tactically too. They had a very solid game plan where they didn't press like Haiti did. Like, they weren't as relentless with their high press, and they played with one forward as well. But they were smart about when to press, and they knew that. And this is now what everyone knows, that the Mexico wants to build from the back. They'll play the short corner, similar to what the United States is trying to do under Greg Berhalter. Mexico is a little bit more advanced, I feel like, in that sense. But when teams want to build from the back, and I think one of the most important, the key positions are those wing backs, because that is a very effective outlet for the center backs to get those, to play around a little bit in the back with the center back, and then find a wing back that's far upfield, and can progress and advance rapidly. And so Costa Rica, I thought they had a very good game plan where they tried to limit really just the distribution from center back to wing back. So both the left fullback and the right fullback for Mexico, Gallardo left, Chaco Rodriguez on the right, are guys that are constantly going up the field. And so I think what I saw was Costa Rica challenging Mexico to play through their midfield, not allowing them to build play and easily just advance the ball up the field on the flanks. And what I think, even though I thought it was effective, credit to Mexico that they stuck to the game plan. They didn't lump the ball forward. They kept the ball on the ground, and they were like, okay, if we need to play through the midfield, we'll do that. And it's because they have really technical players in that center midfield. They have Edson Alvarez, who's playing in that holding midfield role, very good on the ball, a converted defender. So when he's on the ball, he knows what to do with it. When he doesn't have the ball, he can tackle like a defender. Jonathan Dos Santos, who's been playing very well, very skilled on the ball, can get out of tight spaces. And so I think Jamaica and the U.S. will be looking at that, because if you can limit the flank play from Mexico, it can be an effective strategy. It's not the end all strategy though, because I think they have enough in the middle and even ahead of those flank players like a Uriel Antuna, who can come in and play, in that front three and still be a valuable outlet. So it's really the flanks. I think that's always been what Tata Martino has wanted to do. He wants his flank players to get high. He wants to attack down, using width. And if a team begins to snuff that out, I think he's pretty confident in his midfield that they can play through there as well.
Much more still to come from my conversation with Felipe Cardenas, this time about the Copa America. We've kind of wrapped up talking about the Gold Cup, but first I wanted to let you know about today's sponsor, Talisman Caps, our friends over at Talisman Caps. If you're not familiar with Talisman, they are an independent hat/clothing company, apparel company, I should say, based in St. Paul, Minnesota. Talisman offer high-end, quality-made caps to help you support and celebrate the football club or clubs or national team or players that you most enjoy. They've got U.S. women's national team centric hats available. The Megan Rapinoe hat, the Megan Rapinoe Taking a Knee with pink hair. It's back in stock, so you can check that one out. But there's Michelle Akers, there's Mia Hamm, there's some other U.S. soccer-centric hats, and excitingly, they've just launched a new line of vintage-inspired polo shirts for different teams from around the world. They have like the USA 1994 polo. They've got a Chelsea one, a Tottenham one, Arsenal, Liverpool. Lots of different options in there for you to check out. And then they've got curated jerseys as well. Many things available at Talisman Caps. I must say, although they don't have the Man United one, the polos do look pretty great because they've just got the Spartan logo, and that's it, and then the colors to match. It's a solid look. If you don't want to go like full jersey to support your team this season, maybe these polos are what you should be looking for, and you can be looking for 10% off using the code TOTALSOCCER10 at checkout. That gives you 10% off any item in the store at talismancaps.com. And once again, that's TOTALSOCCER10 at checkout for 10% off. Thank you very much to Talisman Caps for sponsoring today's episode. Now, back to my conversation with Felipe. Let's turn it over to Copa America. Brazil eliminated Argentina 2-0 last night. Let's go with Argentina to start. They lost to Colombia in the group stage, drew with Paraguay, beat Qatar. They then handled a talented Venezuela side 2-0, but then last night had moments that looked like, oh yeah, Argentina can find a way through. They could be very good. They could be a dominant team. Then they end up eliminated. How are we grading this overall Argentina performance? If you really were giving it a grade, what would you go with? It's a tough one. I know. Grades are hard.
Yeah, I know grades are hard. I never liked school or grades. I'll give them. I'm gonna say a B minus. I'm gonna say B minus. High B minus, close to B, because they went from they improved. They got better throughout the tournament. And I remember the first time I was on this show talking to you about Copa America, we were wondering what this team was going to do. Remember we joked about them being the dark horse because it's you don't know what you're going to get. What if they end up advancing to the final? That would be quite the story, considering that this is a team that's rebuilding. And so I think they went from pretty bad against Colombia to progressively much better. And last night was, some reports out of Argentina are saying that was the best game that the national team has played in 3 years. And I think they know that on paper, Brazil man to man is just a much better team. But it was it's a super classico. So at times, tactics really didn't matter. It was in the first 15, 20 minutes, really the first 45 was who's tougher, who's gonna, how many forehead to forehead trash talking moments did we see in that first half? And
several.
So they were up for it. Yeah, several. Argentina was up for it. And I think tactically, what's important to notice is that, remember, Lionel Messi came back to this team and accepted the responsibility of not only being the captain of Argentina once again, but of being the captain of a team that's very inexperienced. And I think he grew into that role. I think there was a bit of a transformation for him. He didn't carry the team on his back through the group stage. Let's be honest. He said himself in the mix zone that he had, before the knockout stage, that he wasn't having a good tournament. And maybe that was his way of getting into his own teammates' heads and letting them know how important they are. But it was other guys that were scoring the goals that were getting the team through. And so I think you saw Messi as more of a vocal leader, something that everyone has criticized him for. When he was the captain in 2014, it was why is he the captain? Give it to Mascherano. He's the true captain. I think now he's on a team of young guys that some of them still idolize him, as young players. And so his personality changed a bit. And I think last night he had one of those performances which was, close to peak Messi. Really the only thing that didn't happen, had he scored a goal, he had a couple good chances, I think we would be talking about that was one of his better performances for Argentina. But yeah, I think there's a little bit of confusion in Argentina because they want to trash this team so bad. They have an interim coach. He's criticized for not being a tactician, and they really did grow throughout the tournament. And now they're going to be co-hosting the next Copa America in 2020. And now they have big questions to answer, who's going to lead them? Who will be their coach? Do they stick with this project that, looks like it's going to work? I don't think we'll see Di Maria moving forward, but there are other players that have stepped in, and Argentina always has good youth players. And there's been no news of Messi retiring from the national team immediately after this game, because I think my gut tells me that he's signed on for at least the next Copa America too. I mean, how can Argentina co-host without Messi? So I think it's good for them. They were building throughout the tournament. I think they began to understand how to play with Messi. That he walks on the field a lot, but if you watched last night, they finally understood that sometimes when Messi walks out of a midfield pocket, it's intentional so that a teammate can run in and get on the ball, and that was starting to happen against Brazil. It wasn't happening earlier. There were still times in the games where guys were just desperate to get him the ball no matter what. So there's an onus on other players to create, and it looked good. It looked good for them.
Can you explain that one more time? Because that's the thing that I honestly, I think Daryl and I have been critical of him for at times when it seems like, oh yeah, he's a little disinterested, he's walking, he doesn't really like want to get involved in the play. So you're saying that that's more of an unintentional tactic on his part?
I think it is. I think it always has been. It's easy to criticize a player that kind of seems to walk a lot, like especially in the midfield. But he does it a lot with Barcelona, and I think that's why Barcelona is so good, and that's why Messi with Barcelona and Messi with Argentina are so different. Because with Barcelona, there's a constant fluid movement from midfield to attack. The midfielders are always creating space for each other, and I remember specifically last night. Where I caught him kind of like walking, right? And while his team was building play, and Casemiro was just like on him though. Like Casemiro had his eye, at least one eye on Messi the entire time. And Messi knows this. Messi probably could feel him breathing on his neck at times. And so he just kind of casually walked, towards the center circle. Like Messi was kind of in that half space between Brazil's box and the center circle, and he just kind of started to walk casually towards the ball, right? Towards where I think it was Paredes, who's the holding midfielder, had the ball. He kind of just walked towards him, and behind him, I think it was Gustavo de Paulo, just kind of made a run behind him and was open. And he got the ball. Like it worked. It was something that worked. And as soon as Messi realized that his teammate had made that run, he kind of spun and got into position as well. He wasn't involved in that play on the ball, but it looked like something that they were starting to understand, that was rehearsed, that was talked about. So for me, that is a sign that this version of Argentina, the much maligned Argentina, was starting to gel. Teammates were starting to understand what Messi does when he doesn't have the ball, because that is some of the peak Messi. When he doesn't have the ball, what is he doing? What is he thinking? You could see signs of that last night.
All right. So we'll keep an eye on Haiti and Argentina, two equally powerful upstart soccer nations, I think, going forward. Just kidding. But turning to Brazil, who in that 2-0 victory did you find most impressive?
I'll give it to Gabriel Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
I think he again, another player that can at times is the second choice striker for Brazil. Tite tends to lean on Firmino, and I think Gabriel Jesus gives you a little bit more than Firmino. Firmino is so good with back to goal and combining, and he's so smart in the box, right? He doesn't always score. Sometimes he's the provider, but Gabriel Jesus to me is a little braver. He's more forward thinking. He's faster. He's a guy that wants to go one-on-one with guys. He wants the ball at his feet, and he can face a guy up and take him on. And some of the similar qualities I just mentioned about Firmino, I think Gabriel Jesus has as well. He's learned a lot playing under Pep, that strikers do more than just score. They need to combine. They need to drop into the midfield. So, and that second goal was just, what can you say?
Yeah.
I mean, he a counterattack, and he just outran the struggling Argentina defense. In my opinion, going back to Argentina quickly, that is where they need the most help. Is that back four? Yeah, and Gabriel Jesus, as if he knew that he knew what he had in front of him. He knew he could take them on, and just what a goal. So a big goal too. I think that put the game away. And he looked like a player that had a lot of confidence.
Yeah, no arguments here about anything you've just said, because, watching that one again this morning and just seeing, I think Foyth it is who thinks the play is dead, and so he stops, then he has to chase back, but he's never going to catch up, and then maybe it's Petzela who also tries to make a play and can't, but it's basically, Jesus just out-muscles three different players, but then still has, the skill and awareness to cut back and find Firmino for the tap-in. I think I'm with you. I really enjoyed Gabriel Jesus. Yeah. One, I guess, question for me has always been around the Brazilian defense, and it's kind of a very familiar Brazilian defense to us. Dani Alves, Thiago Silva, Alexandro Marquinhos. Is that an area of vulnerability, do you think, for whomever they might meet in the final, or have you enjoyed what you've seen from their defense so far?
I think the center back pairing is solid. Marquinhos, and I'm not sure if he came off the field yesterday injured. Not sure what the injury looks like, if he'll be ready for the final. But that even Thiago Silva still is a guy that commands a lot of respect. The fullbacks still seem like that is where Brazil moving forward is going to have to make some decisions. Going back to who impressed, you could obviously argue that Dani Alves last night was very impressive. Like, what is he, like 52 years old? I'm not sure, but he played like, the guy that we've seen from Barcelona, the crucial piece of Barcelona's puzzle that they let go on a free, the guy that understands Messi, through and through, just a solid quality, exceptional player. And he was part of the first goal. He had a no look pass and build up on that build up of that goal. Just like such an arrogant player. And I mean that in the best way, as a compliment. So he gives that team a lot of attitude that I think they haven't had in a while. I think for so long it's been Neymar and like what he brings, but I just don't think Neymar can give you the same type of bite and authority that a player like Dani Alves can. And then on the left side, I'm not sure. That's definitely the question mark. And to go back to your question, that could be the weak link. Is it Felipe Luis or is it Alexandro? Mm-hmm. It seems to be. I think last night Tite went with Alexandro because the guy can really get up and down the field. He can cover space much quicker than Felipe Luis can. I think Felipe Luis gives you more possession. He a lot smarter on the ball. He can get forward, but when he's getting forward, it's not necessarily as a threat. It's just kind of part of build up and keeping the ball. And Alexandra is much more of a vertical player, but if he needs to sit back, he's going to catch up and possibly outrun anyone that's on his side. So, yeah, I think that is the question mark. The good thing for Brazil, though, is that their goalkeeper is very, very good. Alisson is, he was considered one of the best goalkeepers in the world this year. And he looks the part, he really does. It's rare for Brazil to have a goalkeeper of that caliber. And it looks like he's going to be the goalkeeper for Brazil for many, many years. And so they know they have that foundation as well. It's just Tite deciding, what is the matchup for me on the flanks, and how much freedom do I give a player like Dani Alves, because he is a player that can get exposed if he's too high.
I have a slightly strange question that I hope makes sense. But watching the game last night, like it's stereotypical, I guess, to say like it's very physical. There's a lot of like passion or whatever when it comes to Copa America. But like it does seem as though like a leg can be broken at any moment, especially in Brazil, Argentina. Maybe that's like a specific case. But I guess my question is not so much like why is that the case, because I just think it kind of is. More so, how big of a role is like managing temper in taking over a national team, like in the Copa America, for example? That like is it like getting tactics right, but also being able to know like, okay, he's like just intense enough versus, oh, he's too intense and he's about to get a red card. Like, do you think that factors into it, or is that fairly standard across any national team manager?
I think that's fairly standard across all national team managers in South America. But I'm really glad you asked this question, because it's actually in my notes that it's a bit of Twitter fodder, but there's been tweets about Gold Cup being better than Copa America, like funner, like more entertaining to watch. And I can see that. I can understand. Like Costa Rica, Mexico was full tilt, very entertaining. Even last night's game against Haiti was edge of your seat type of game. Like you're wondering, oh my gosh, are they going to knock out Mexico? And it's true that some of the Copa America games have not been like that. And I think for me, I'm not surprised, that welcome to South American football, welcome to World Cup qualifying. Mm-hmm. That's the type of games that we see. That's why it's the toughest region to qualify out of for the World Cup, because despite all the quality in these nations and these teams and these starting 11s, James, Messi, Gabriel Jesus, Neymar, like go on and on, Alexis, like Cavani, Suarez, it's like no other region really. I mean, if it has that caliber of player, across the national teams. But I think what that does is that it changes the way teams defend those creative players. It is an all out. It can be very physical because it's one of the only ways to nullify that type of game. Colombia was eliminated by Chile because Chile just manned up, and they knew that they were facing a team in Colombia that wants to play. They want the ball, they want to play, they want to possess with authority, right? Like get forward by keeping the ball. And if you can, end that type of strategy and keep the ball away and turn it into a bit more of a physical battle and a mental game, well, then you've won half the battle. And that's what we're seeing a lot in Copa America. Teams like Peru that know, okay, Uruguay is a favorite. Peru is well respected because of their technical ability, but they probably were fully prepared to get to penalty kicks. They're like that is one of the only ways that they knew they had a chance to beat Uruguay, and they did it. They held firm. They played hard. They didn't allow themselves to get wrapped up in some of the mind games, the mental games of that Uruguay loves to play, and then they eliminated them in penalties. Colombia, a favorite, the most consistent team coming in. A team that had literally two good squads that they could choose from, that danced around Paraguay, to be honest with you, and with their second team in the final group stage game. Then they faced the two-time defending champion that we talked about it on the show, Taylor. Like, what's up with Chile? Like, are they done? And they completely owned Colombia, and their Colombian coach out-coached Queiroz, and the players. And this is what we say a lot in South America. The term is sangre, which is blood, literally translates to blood. Mm-hmm. I would say that in the States, it's guts. It's like that do you have the guts? Who's the team that has that extra edge? And it was Chile. They were obviously in Colombia's head. And did you see how they took their PKs? I mean, they were just slamming the ball into the roof of the net, like upper 90 authority. And Colombia's were like barely going in, and it was just mind games. And that is what a champion does, and that's what South American football is. There's an upper echelon and a club that is still consists of Brazil, Argentina, Uruguay, and obviously you have to put Chile there because they're the defending champions. Teams like Colombia, teams like Peru, they're just not there yet. Like they can't break the ceiling and get there. And some of it is just like that mental fortitude that these classic historical teams still have.
So I agree with pretty much everything you said. My one question, though, then, is when you talk about like how you're right, like pretty much every South American team has at least like one or two players where you're like, but you can't really count them out because playing at home with those two guys, they could be difficult, and you see that a lot with like Ecuador specifically, Peru as well. Mm-hmm. My one team that I still always go back to, like I feel like they're the easy team to make fun of when it comes to South America, is Bolivia. And there was a time where it was like Marco Echeverri and like he could, like the ball had eyes, he can find anyone on the field at any given moment. What explains Bolivia's kind of lack of progress when it comes to their national team? Because I mean, looking at their current squad now, I pulled it up while you were talking, and I was wondering, like, am I wrong? Like maybe they do have somebody and I'm forgetting about, but like pretty much that entire squad is based in Bolivia.
Yeah, I think their central striker plays in China. Yep. Pretty sure he plays in China. So, and he's the man, but he's not Marco Echeverri. I think Marco Echeverri could probably still play for Bolivia, to be honest. But they will always struggle. They are a, this is like, we go back to like infrastructure, and development, and that's why you see a country like Venezuela starting to rise above a team like Bolivia. Those are the two like bottom dwellers of South American football that consistently battle with each other, who will finish last in World Cup qualifying. And now you see in Venezuela that despite probably plenty of infrastructure issues that Rafael Dudamel, when I asked him about even MLS allowing Venezuelan players to develop, he asked, what was the importance of MLS right now? His answer was, we in Venezuela, we just don't have the infrastructure that, European nations or even other countries in the U.S. have, but we have we have a generation now. We have players, young players that are able to leave Venezuela. They're not traditionally a team that exports players to very many countries, or at least top leagues, and now they have several in Italy, in Europe, and in England, and plenty in MLS. And so now MLS is one of those leagues that is allowing good Venezuelan players to play at a higher level. Bolivia they're just not there yet. They aren't there yet. I don't know when or if they ever will be. The one thing that they have and that they'll always have is playing in La Paz for World Cup qualifying and hoping to get results at I think, what is it, over 6,000 feet of altitude, something crazy like that. So that's always been an issue. It's always been a way to level the playing field. But as far as development goes and exporting players, I think that one of their goalkeeper got to Boca Juniors earlier this year, but the deal fell through and he ended up not playing. And so that was big for them. But other than that, there's really not much there.
Well, I assume that you knew you were going to be talking about Bolivia coming into this show, but I guess I shouldn't be surprised that you know enough to be able to answer that question and help me understand better why Bolivia don't have Marco Echeverris everywhere. So thank you for that. Final question. We're recording this before the other semifinal, Peru-Chile tonight. With everything we've just talked about, what are you expecting from that fixture?
I'm expecting Chile to get through. And the thing is that this is for the listeners that don't know, this is a huge rivalry match. It is called the Pacific Derby, in Spanish, El Clásico del Pacífico. These countries, I don't like to talk about hatred very much, but these teams do not like each other. And so I think that makes for a very juicy matchup. Historically, these teams do not get along, and I think the fact that they're meeting in a semifinal just is great drama. But going back to what I said about Chile, I think they know who they are now. They've realized that they are a championship team, a two-time Copa America champion. That has a very good tactician on their touchline. And that'll prove, I think that'll give them the edge tonight against Peru. I think it could be an even match though. I mean, Peru is not a bad team. We can say the same thing about their touchline manager, Ricardo Gareca, very good, very well respected. But I still think that Peru kind of backed into this situation. A tremendous result against Uruguay, but very inconsistent in group play. And they're kind of one of those teams where you're not sure. You always know you're going to get very skilled technical players, but can they withstand defensively, which is the big question mark for them. And I don't think Chile, what they did against Colombia, they press high. They did bunker a little bit. I don't think they'll do that against Peru. I think they're going to come out and press them and really get after them. And try to put them away early. I think Chile will go through. The funny things that are coming out of South America this morning is that no matter who wins Chile, Peru, they're going to have a tough time beating Brazil if there's no VAR. So.
All right. I like that narrative. Well, why don't we? I think we're planning to have you back on Friday, right? Does that still work for you?
That works, yeah. All
right, sweet. So Felipe back on to review Peru, Chile, the juicy, potentially physical encounter this evening, and then also maybe looking ahead to the Copa America final, doing a quick preview there as well on Friday.
Yeah, and obviously don't forget Gold Cup final on Sunday.
Yep.
How many finals are there on Sunday? Like, what are we going to do? But regardless, there is a Gold Cup final in Chicago. Early reports saying that Soldier Field has sold out.
Yep.
Obviously, Mexico coming through helps. At one point last night, I was like, I think I need to start concepting on Haiti stories because I honestly was not sure. I was concerned because my flights are booked. So, but yeah, Mexico's through, and so that obviously will help attendance figures dramatically.
Beautiful. All right. Well, Felipe, thank you so much. Felipe Cardenas, really appreciate you taking the time, and look forward to your. You've got an Tata article coming out soon, right?
Yeah, I followed a piece this morning on just the dynamics of Tata Martino's early relationship with the Mexican media. So look out for that on the Athletic Soccer.
All right, looking forward to it, Felipe. Thank you again for taking all the time to explain all the soccer.
All right, take care, man.
You gotta slice it.